So what we're doing in 8.5 and 8.6, this is going to be a pretty quick video. This is just going to be an introduction to factoring. Factoring is probably one of the most important and one of the things that it builds on everything that you're going to do moving forward in algebra, including algebra 2. So to explain a little bit about what factoring is, so we're going to factor trinomials, and we're doing both these sections at once. So this is what a factor looks like. X plus 3 times x plus 4. These are what we consider factors. Before, what we did was we would multiply this using the FOIL method. So x times x would be x squared. And then x times 4 is 4x. 3 times x is 3x. And then 3 times 4 is 12. We would combine our middle terms, and we would have x squared plus 7x plus 12. What factoring is it's going from this portion right here in reverse to this over here. And there are several ways that you can factor, but this is going to be the general method. This is just the general method on how you can always factor no matter what, and this is something you can take with you forever. It's not something you need to memorize. The idea of this is when you notice, what you should notice from what we have here is that the two numbers here, 3 and 4, will always multiply to be the last number. So we're definitely going to do something with that. And then also the number that's in front of your x value, in this case it's just 1, will always multiply to be the number that's in front of your x squared. So our first step here is just to list the factors of a. So you would look to see what your a number is. If it's 1, then the factors are just 1 and 1. But at any other number, you would list all of the factors. The next step is to list all of your factors of c. So that's the positive and negative factors. So if the factors of 8 could be 1 and 8, negative 1 and negative 8, 2 and 4, negative 2 and negative 4. Again, it depends on what your c is. Write out all the possible factors using a and c. So you're going to write out what the possible factors could be using what the factors that you chose were. So like putting a 2 there and then a 1 there because it was 2 and 1. And then putting a positive 1 and a positive 8 because those were possible factors. And then what you want to do is you need to try all your different combinations by foiling them to see what works. And you'd be surprised, it doesn't take as long as you might think. So let's just go through a couple of examples here. So I have x squared plus 8x plus 12. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a chart. And the chart on the left is going to be factors of a, and then the one on the right is going to be factors of c. So my a here is just 1. So the only factors that I have are 1 and 1. So I'm going to put both of those in. You could do negatives, but you never need to deal with negatives when you have your x squared. Okay? Now 12, we got to do factors of 12. So we have 1 and 12. We have negative 1 and negative 12. We have 2 and 6. We have negative 2 and negative 6. We have 3 and 4. And we have negative 3 and negative 4. The big thing about factoring is it's not that difficult. You just have to be a little persistent about doing it. There are a lot of options here, and that's okay. And what you want to do is you want to check to see if any of them stand out to you. Now, normally what you would do is you would go through, and I'm going to write all these out. You don't need to write all of these out unless you feel like it's going to help you. But technically, here's what we have. When I write this out, I'm going to have 2 parentheses. Here's my possibilities. Because my factors are just 1 and 1, all of these are just going to be x and x. And what you would do is you would just start writing what your possibilities are. 1 and 12, negative 1 and negative 12. Then we could do 2 and 6. And then we would do negative 2 and negative 6. And what you would do is you don't have to write them all out first. You could just do them one at a time. And the idea is you would FOIL each one of these. X times x, x times 12, 1 times x, 1 times 12 equals. And then you would check to see whether it matches up. But I'm going to give you a little bit of a trick. Whenever you have just an x squared, this is only when you have just an x squared, what you can do is look at the factors that you have. And if it's just an x squared, find the factors that add up to be your middle number. So I need my numbers over here to add up to be 8. That will work. You can go through the guess and check all you want. That's fine. But understand, you can do this real quick shortcut because whatever these two factors are, they're always going to add up your middle to be your middle term. So because 2 and 6 add up to be 8, that is what our factors are. So our correct answer here is x plus 2 and x plus 6. Okay? So that's, I mean, again, you can go through and FOIL each one of these to see which one works, but I'm just giving you a little bit of a shortcut there. Okay? The next ones are a little bit harder. And the reason why they're a little bit harder is because we have a number in front of our x squared. So again, we're going to do our chart here. And I'm just going to write an A and a C. Factors of A are going to be 2 and 1. Factors of C, we have 6. So we have 1 and 6, -1 and -6. And then we have 2 and 3, and we have -2 and -3. So now when we write out our factors, here's what we have to be careful about. So let me write out the first one. It's going to be 2x, because we have a 2, plus 1, and then 1x plus 6. We need to make sure we FOIL this out. We can't do our adding anymore. It doesn't work out like that because of this 2. It messes it up. So we're going to FOIL. 2x times x is 2x squared. 2x times 6 is 12x. 1 times x is x. 1 times 6 is 6. Add these two up, we get 13x. 2x squared plus 13x plus 6. That does not match up. It's close, but it doesn't match up. Now, one of the things you got to be careful about is because we're really close, you might be able to figure out what it's going to be. But when you do these guess and check, one of the things you got to be aware of is just because I checked 1 and 6 does not necessarily mean that 1 and 6 doesn't work. You have to also try the reverse. 2x plus 6 and x plus 1. This right here from this will give you two different answers. So you need to make sure that you flip-flop them too. Now, this isn't going to be your answer either. Let me give you a quick little tidbit here. This sign tells you a lot. Because it's negative, you can pretty much assume that your answers are going to have to be one of these two. So let's try that. Let's do 2x minus 1 and x minus 6 and FOIL that out. 2x squared minus 12x minus x plus 6. Negative 12x and negative 1x is negative 13x. Okay, so that one works. So therefore our factors would be this. Okay, so again, it is all trial and error. Once you have this chart, you can write out all your possibilities and then just FOIL each one of them out to see which one works. Sometimes it takes longer than others. Sometimes you get it right away. Okay, and then the more and more you practice this, the more and more you'll find the little tricks and ways of finding what the answer is a little bit quicker. Okay, and the last one that I want to go over, it's still the same idea. If you need to use the same method, it's fine. I have no issue with that. So you go through and you'll do your factors of A and you'll do your factors of C. The factors of A are 1 and 4 or 2 and 2. Your factors of C, you have -9. So it's going to be either -1, +9, +1, -9, or -3 and +3. Those are the only sets that we have because it's negative. So here's the deal. We're missing a middle term here. Here is the one thing you want to note. When missing a middle term, your C's, your C value has to be opposites. Okay? And the point of this is that if you're missing a middle term, it's going to have to cancel out. So therefore, you could try the 1 and 4, but almost all the time your A is going to be the same number and your C is going to be the same number, but your C will have to be an opposite. So right away, the quick way to do this is looking at this and saying 2 times 2 is 4. So my factors are going to be 2y minus 3 and 2y plus 3. I already know this is going to work because the positive 3 and the negative 3 here, they will cancel out our middle term. And we'll FOIL this out just to check. So we have, 4y squared, 2y times 2y. 2y times a positive 3 is 6y. Negative 3 times 2y is negative 6y. And negative 3 times positive 3 is a negative 9. These two, positive and negative, cancel out, and we are left with exactly what we want, so we are good. So that is a quick trick. Whenever you're missing the middle term, your two numbers, your C values, have to be the same. They're just going to be opposites of each other. So hopefully that gives us a brief overview. Come to class with questions. We're going to work on this quite a bit, a lot of examples in class. So hopefully this gave you a brief overview and you can use this in the future. So I'll see you in class. Don't forget to take your Edmodo quiz if that has been assigned.